Hi guys, today I'm going to show you another tool that I use that helps me visualize my story when I'm trying to write it. Now, I showed a video on how to visualize conflict in a story. This one is going to be looking at working with something I call the plot character matrix. And basically what this allows me to do is see the plot and the characters and then how all of that kind of fits together from a synoptic view. But before I show you my example, let me explain to you kind of how this works. Creating one of these is pretty easy to do. The first thing you want to do is create the plot outline. Typically I do that in Word, and I put it in the order it's going to be read. It doesn't have to be chronological order, but my books are usually in chronological order. I might have flashback scenes, but they're typically not entire plot points that are oriented around them. But if that's relevant to your novel, then you probably want to at least be cognitive of that. But in any case, you want to put this in the order of which you're going to be writing the plot. And once I have that, I transpose that into an Excel spreadsheet across the top of the Excel spreadsheet. So basically have an axis where my plot points are going to be in the order which they're going to be read as plot point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and so on. And I'm just basically writing those into those cells in an Excel spreadsheet. Then what I do is I put the characters on the column right here, the first column, and that is going to be my main characters. Now it could be antagonists and protagonists, and it could be secondary characters if they have an arc, but you basically want to list those out down the side of the spreadsheet. And this is where I'm going to be crafting my story according to the interactions that my characters have with the plot. So I think of my plot as a given column, and all my plot points are going to have a column that represents those. And what I'm going to be doing inside of my characters that are rows is I'm going to be intersecting these columns so that I have an intersection of a plot point with a character. And what I do up here in the plot point, this is where I outline the high level story narrative as it unfolds in the book. But right here where this intersection happens, I put into this cell in the spreadsheet the thoughts and feelings and character development and the conflict that this character is dealing with to describe what's going on with this particular character in reference to a given plot point. Now, a given plot point can impact multiple characters. It doesn't have to impact all the characters. So this one might be an inciting incident and it impacts one or two characters, but it doesn't impact every character. So if I go ahead and draw out all of these lines across this screen here, what I will end up with is some kind of plot character matrix where I have plot points that are impacting a subset of the characters for each plot point. So maybe the second plot point impacts just these two. And then this next one impacts, say, maybe this one, this character, and this character. And then maybe on this one, I get this character introduced at this point in the story, and I get another plot point interacting with them and the first character up here. And sometimes you might only have one character. What you typically don't want to have is no characters around the plot point, because this is really trying to show the interaction of characters and the plot so that you are able to see how the characters are responding to the plot as the story unfolds. So however this shapes up, you'll end up with something that looks like this, where you have different plot points interacting with different characters, and what you will be able to see is the character development as the plot unfolds. So this character is changing with each new plot point, and this character is changing with each new plot point, and you'll get that for each one of your characters as you work on this graph. So let's go and look at an example of this. I've been using this for my new novel that I've just started writing. I built this first, and I've done it for other novels, but I want to show you my newest novel as an example of this. I'm not going to give away the entire novel, but I will show you an example of how I think this ought to unfold, and I'll show you why I like this particular view, because it does really give you some insights into your story. So this is what it looks like in an Excel spreadsheet, where it basically is filled in. So let's zoom in just a little bit here. I have my plot across this first row right here, and that's all my plot points. I have about 30 of those, and then I have my characters in this first column right here. And once I have those filled in, then I go back in and I fill in the interaction the plot has with each of the characters. So the plot just tells me what's happening, and these character interactions with a plot point are showing me how the character is interacting with the plot. So that is basically the thoughts and feelings and emotions and actions that are specific to that character, while this is just talking about the plot up here. And I use some color coordination here to show where an arc begins and where it ends. So Finnick is the first character introduced in the story. He gets the inciting incident right here. And this is his arc right here. So this is his arc as it unfolds through the story. So this is my plot, and this is his character development, his story arc right here. This is Tannen. She's another main character. She's actually probably the main character in this story. And this is her arc as it unfolds right here. So you can see her arc gets a lot of attention because she gets a lot of plot points that are going to be impacting her arc. And so every main character is going to have some kind of arc where their character is going to be developed through the interaction with the plot and interaction with other characters. So other character interactions are shown by a given column. So a plot point is going to impact one or more characters. And so I'm going to see where a plot point impacts two characters. So that's probably going to be putting those characters in relationship with one another somehow. And so we're going to be seeing scenes or settings where they're interacting with one another. Maybe they're building alliances. Maybe there's conflict brewing between those characters. Whatever it might be, that's what I'm going to be indicating right here. And I'm going to be showing character interaction. So this character interaction has, this particular plot point has three characters interacting with it. And with this particular story, you can kind of see that all of the characters are going to be present in some of these later plot points because they're all kind of coming together at the end of the story. And this is bringing a resolution to their various threads through this series, but it's also bringing a resolution to not only this novel, but the entire series, because this is the last book in this series. So you can see here that these given plot points are going to have a lot of character interactions, and it's going to kind of being bringing to a conclusion a lot of the characters that were introduced in prior novels but have an arc in this novel as well. And you can see the red indicates that is where the character arcs end. So just to recap, we can see the arcs of individual characters, and we can also see the interactions characters will have with one another in relationship to the plot points. So this gives me an idea of where things are going to be happening for characters and how the plot and interactions of characters are all going to be happening in this. So there's several insights that you can get from this particular view beyond just the views that you get for each of the character arcs and their interactions with other characters. It can show me a couple of things. One, it can show me where I might have a character that is underdeveloped. And so if I was to look at this particular matrix right here, and I saw a character where I only had one or two plot points, or maybe three, where the plot was interacting with that character, that's probably an indication that I haven't developed this character well enough. And I might want to think about one of two things. One, I could just not write this character as a main character. Maybe I write them as a supporting character where they're present, but I'm not going to give the reader any indication that there's going to be any character development for this character. Maybe they're just helping other characters along, but I don't want to build any kind of conflict with that character. Another thing that you might want to do in that is to think about how the plot will impact that character in more ways than are currently on the page. So maybe if it was one or two or three, I might want to go back and think about how the plot can impact them in more meaningful ways as I write the story. So maybe I include 3 or 4 or 5 more plot points that are in developing this character as the story unfolds, and that will give me some kind of indication of what I'm going to be writing as those plot points unfold. Now, another thing that this allows me to see is places where my pacing might be off. Now the pacing is typically something with a plot where you might have long periods of time that don't really build the conflict, or they don't resolve the conflict in any way. It's just kind of dead space in your book. But you can also have that with characters as well. So if I have a character that has development going on, and I kind of see that with this character right here, Vinnick, where I have a lot of dead space in the plot where there is no interaction with the plot in that character. So what that means is that I'm going to be writing this story, and I see that something happens with the character right here, and then I have several plot points that don't impact this character. And so that could be several hundred pages in my novel that I don't see this character interacting with any other character or the plot. And then all of a sudden they're reintroduced at a later plot point. So they kind of get lost, and then all of a sudden I reintroduce them at a later point. And that could be kind of jarring to the reader. That could be like almost like an oversight of the character. And I don't want the character to get lost. So I might want to go back and think about how I might want to weave this character into some of these other plot points. It doesn't have to be major, but it can be something that I include that shows that I haven't forgot about this character and I'm still considering how I'm going to be weaving this particular character into the story as the story unfolds. So I can see that with a couple of other places right here. That one's not too bad, but this one right here could be a problem where I see this particular gap right here, and this one is a gap right here in this particular story. So I might want to think about how I can go back and include some kind of plot interactions with this character to include new developments for this character as this particular plot points unfold in the story. So just to recap, I use this to show character arcs against the plot right here, character interactions with given plot points. So character interactions with the plot, character interactions with one another, and also use it to show where I might have issues in development or long periods of time without development in my characters in reference to the plot. So it's a very useful tool for kind of giving you a high level view of what your story is going to look like, and allows you to see at a high level how things are going to pan out for your story, for your characters, and how this is going to build to a resolution. And hopefully that you'll be able to draw that all to a conclusion as the story winds down and you finish writing your story, you finish the arcs of all your characters as well.